Today we're going to do something a little bit different from usual. Today we're just going to go through a bit of product information on three separate products. The first one is the one you see right now, which is our Koibox. We're then going to talk about the HS-264 and then finally the TBS-464. So these are all slightly different from our normal NAS products that we talk about, switches, things like that. These are all dedicated to a set specific task, a very specific environment. So hopefully grouping these three things together makes a bit of sense. Okay, so the Koibox is an all-in-one video conferencing and wireless presentation solution. So now I'll go in a little bit about how we use it as QNAP, using our own products. So here with the QNAP offices around the world in our headquarters in Taipei in Taiwan, the different branch offices that we have around, including in our Swindon office, we have a Koibox in one of our conference rooms, and it is connected up to the television with a HDMI connection. And it's also connected off to the network either with Wi-Fi 6, or you can hardwire it with Ethernet. We've got a USB camera attached that's mounted somewhere that makes sense in each room, whether that's on the meeting room table, on top of the screen, so that everybody can be seen when doing video conferences with it. And you can also use it for wireless presentation as well. So if we move into the different ways that you can interact with the Koibox, so when it's connected to the TV screen, it will display a sort of home screen, and on that home screen it tells you how you can use it as a wireless projection tool. So if you've got, say, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox on your laptop, you're able to go to a set link, and then you're able to share your screen to that meeting room screen directly through it. So you're able to wirelessly project what's on your laptop to the screen to share with others. So that's really great if you're doing a presentation just in the room, not necessarily doing a conference with anybody else. You can also join cloud meetings, so you can either do it directly using the Koibox tool itself. We've got KoiMeeter, that's an application you can install on various devices, or you can use the sort of industry standards out there like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Skype, a few different options that are out there as well. You can install a SATA hard drive inside, so it does allow you a SATA drive so that you can record the meetings, things like that, directly to the drive on the device. And you can also make private peer-to-peer meetings directly between you and another Koibox, or you can add SIP meeting devices as well. So it's a really easy way to interact and add a really cool service to the conference room. Here's just an overview of all the different things you can use it with. So along with the ones I've mentioned, you can use it with things like Cisco Webex, Google Meet as well. But it is really optimized for things like Zoom, Skype, and Microsoft Teams. You can actually add and log into your Microsoft Teams account directly onto the device. So there are a couple of USB ports on the back of this, so you can interact it with a USB keyboard and mouse. One of the USB ports can be used for the webcam. Lots of different ways to use this device. Here's what the back of the device looks like. So it's got a power connection, HDMI, so you can hook it up to the display. You've got four USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, which are 10 gig USB ports. It's got a gigabit Ethernet network port, but as I said earlier, you can also use it on Wi-Fi. It does have built-in Wi-Fi 6 as well, so you can connect it to the network that way if it makes more sense for you. And there's also a Kensington security slot, and you get the remote control out the box with it, so you can interact with it using the remote control. So just to sum up the Koibox device, it supports almost all USB cameras, keyboards, mice. If you've got Bluetooth ones as well, you can put the little dongle in and use those. It does have Wi-Fi 6, so if you're using it in conjunction with our router, which is the QHORA-301W, you can use it with that, with Wi-Fi 6. You can put in a 2.5-inch SATA drive, so you can do recordings of the different conferences, all the video feeds and anything that's shared on the screen if you want to. So yeah, really easy way to interact, and there's an example of what the home screen looks like if somebody was to come into the meeting room with this on the screen. It's letting you know how you can share your screen with it. There's QR codes to interact with it, and you can navigate around to the different menus for doing cloud meetings, private meetings. You can record or go access the recordings of past sessions as well. So it's a really, really cool way to do conferences, meetings, things like that directly in your meeting room. So this is a new product. We've never done anything like this within the QNAP range before as a physical product, so this is the Koibox for doing that. So if anybody has any questions about that, leave them in the section below. And now we'll move on to the next one, which is the HS-264. Okay, so this unit, the HS-264, is a Celeron-based silent NAS. So that's the sort of the key selling feature here. It's completely silent, especially if you use it with SSDs inside instead of hard drives. Obviously, if you put hard drives, you are now introducing a moving part, but out of the box, this unit has absolutely no moving parts, no fan at all. It's a very, very cool product for a living room setting, so we would call this our set-top box design. If we go into looking into some of these sort of internal features, you've got two hard drive or SSD bays. So you can use hard drives or SSDs in these trays. The trays do have separate screw holes marked on them for whether you're using hard drives or SSDs, and we supply all the screws in the box for that. The top plate of the unit is quite a thick lump of aluminium, so that you're able to use it as a heatsink design. So that's how we get rid of the heat from the unit, from the drives that you've got in there. So we're using this large aluminium top plate to get the heat out, but completely silent, especially if being used with SSDs. So if we go into a front view, so very minimalist. The front is just held on with a magnetic glossy plate there, so it's slightly see-through, so things like the light you can see through there, that shines through the faceplate, and that just pops off. So if you do need to go in there and change a drive or install your drives in the first place, that's a really easy way to do it. And there is an optional remote control if you want to purchase that as well. Or we do have the QRemote app that's available on both iOS and Android devices. So this is really just a NAS for your living room, and because it's going to be in your living room, the reason for it being in the living room, if we look at the back here, you can see it's got two HDMI outputs. So you can hook those HDMI outputs up to the screen that it's next to, so the TV in the living room, for example, and you're able to interact with the interface that's output from that HDMI for some of the applications that we do have available. It's also got two 2.5 gig LAN ports on the back, so they do still work with gigabit Ethernet at 1 gig, so you do have that option. And there's two USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, which are the 10 gig type as well. So the power supply is external on this, so you get a barrel jack on the back, so the power supply, any heat made by the power supply is not within the unit to try and keep it a bit cooler. And the power switch is round there on the back. So I know when I first powered one of these on, didn't know where the power switch was, but it was round the back. If you feel around the back, you can feel that to turn it on. For anyone interested in the specs, we'll put this up. Maybe we won't leave it on screen long enough for you to read everything, but you can pause the video if you want to. So depending on the unit you get, it can have up to 8 gig of RAM. Whatever RAM it comes with, it's not expandable, just the way the chassis is laid out. The RAM is on board, you can't change it at a later date. But that's the main specs of the unit. Because it's got the 2.5 gig LAN ports, you're able to get really, really high speeds out of those two 2.5 gig LAN ports. So just about around 295 megabytes a second on the read and write. So there's just a little test environment of how we tested that as well. So that's the HS-264. So this unit is a set-top design. It's a full NAS, so you can have up to two 20 terabyte hard drives inside there, or if you want it completely silent, you can also use some SSDs instead, or a mix of the two if you wanted to. So you can really get the most out of it as a fantastic multimedia NAS. Because it's got the latest Celeron in there, it's still got quite a bit of punch as well. So it's still going to be able to do all the other functions that any other NAS that we've got would be able to do with an Intel CPU. Like virtualization station. It's not just for home media. If you want to use it for some more advanced functions, you absolutely can. So now we'll move into the TBS-464. Okay, so this is the last one I wanted to focus on today. Now it looks very similar to the HS-264 that we just talked about, but the TBS-464, it does still have a fan. It's just an intelligent fan that only comes on when needed, but the reason for that will be explained in a moment. We're calling this one a NAS book because it's about the size of a book. Very small, very versatile NAS. I wouldn't go as far as to say portable. It doesn't have a battery or anything like that, but it's very easy to take with you if you were setting yourself up at a mobile meeting site and you needed some on-site storage for everybody to access. This would certainly be a good option for that. This is how you're able to mount the different drives inside. So this one is an M.2 SSD only device. They're NVMe SSD slots there. So there are actually 4, so we've got 3 in a line, and then you've got 1 across the back as well. And we've used a new type of heatsink design here so that it's covering the entire surface rather than just the controller as we've had before. So it's really trying to make sure those SSDs can stay cool. But this is why we need a fan. Just the SSDs, they can get quite hot. We do need to have a way to give them an option to cool down as well. So here, if we look at the front view, you can see there's a couple of USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports. They're 5 gigasecond on the front. Some status LEDs for the different SSDs, and there's also an infrared receiver. So if you were to have the optional remote control, you can plug that in there as well. And all the way over the left, the USB OTC button, that's one touch copy. So if you were to set up a backup job or plug in a camera, let's say, into the front slots, you can hit that button and it will do whatever routine that you've configured it to do. Copy data from a camera to a USB hard drive, whichever option that you want. Here's a view of the side. So there is a USB 2 port on the side as well. So if you did need a USB 2 port for anything there, it's also on the side. And finally, the more interesting one, which is the rear view. So here you've got a Kensington lock, a couple of USB 2 ports, as well as some HDMI 2.0 ports, so up to 4K on those. And there's 2 2.5 gig LAN ports. So with all those M.2 SSD performance, having 1 gig ports would probably not be enough. So we put a couple of 2.5 gig ports. So combine those together, you got 5 gig Ethernet total throughput if you were to port trunk those together. Really high performance from it. So when you're installing the SSDs, it's simply a case of popping the feet off. There's a couple of screws under each. There's a screw under each of the feet, and then the bottom plate lifts off, and then you gain access to where the 4 M.2 NVMe SSDs go inside. And here's maybe a better view of how the cooling works. So it is a smart, quiet fan. So we're trying to effectively pull the heat straight off the SSDs. Then we blow over the top of the CPU cooler there that's angled in the correct way to function correctly off at the nice 45-degree angle there. But it's really going to make sure that it tries to keep everything nice and cool inside with as minimal fan noise as possible. And here's just a little side-by-side comparison of the new TBS-464 against the older TBS-453DX. So a much newer, faster CPU. We've also upgraded the M.2 SSDs from just plain SATA to NVMe SSDs. And instead of just the 2 LAN ports before we had a 10 gig and a 1 gig, now we've got the 2.5 gigs, sort of the middle ground between the two there. And instead of a single HDMI as we had before, it's now got 2 HDMI. So if you need to hook it up to a couple of displays at the same time, you can do that as well. So if anybody has any questions on any of the units we've talked about today, whether it's the Koibox, the HS-264, or this new TBS-464 here, let us know down in the comments, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks. Bye.